Are you ready, Ms. Poe? I'm sorry.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. And then I am going to, hi, everybody. This is Kevin Maxwell, Dr. Kevin Maxwell at the Lunch and Learn. And we have a couple other special guests on here that will be able to answer all of your questions. We have Ms. Shonda Beatles, who is our school business manager, and Ms. Tanisha Poe, who is our instructional technology specialist. I'm going to share my screen. I actually have a little PowerPoint ready. So let me get that in present mode and share it one more time. Okay. Ms. Poe, you can see my screen?
I can.
Okay, great. And so we feel like this is probably going to be one of our shortest Lunch and Learn sessions, and that's because our plan is to send you some information through a robocall and through Remind that just has a PowerPoint with a lot more information. It's actually going to be a sneak peek to our student orientation. We will actually have a student orientation on Tuesday during advisory, but we're going to release that probably Sunday, Monday, probably more like Monday. And so that will have a lot of the information that you need, because we know in the Lunch and Learn that we might get 70 or 80 parents, but we want to make sure we get that all this information, important information, out to parents and students. And the students can watch it on Monday also, because redundancy sometimes is a good thing, where you are going to get that information more than once. And so let's just talk a little bit about the important dates. Our autism and MOID classes started on Monday, January 25th. They're going very well. And Tuesday, February the 16th, we will start with all 3 grade levels. And that was a little bit different with that first rollout in February. I think the 1st of February on when kids were coming in, but we had to postpone that. And so Tuesday, February 16th will be our date for all 3 grade levels. Wednesdays are those asynchronous days. And, there's not as much work that's happening on Wednesdays. And I've talked to some parents about that. But in the past, we had those asynchronous periods throughout the week. And so you didn't get very much work on, for instance, like Monday in science, but you were in those classes, the rest of those classes, your students were in the rest of those classes working. And so, we're trying to work through some of those issues on Wednesdays. We have 52 days left of school. If you take those asynchronous Wednesdays, we have 52 days left of either virtual or in-person school days. And just a good time, even though I didn't put this as a bullet point, is to pause and talk about that there will be another intent to return form for that 4th quarter. And that will be on February 17th. We'll send that information out. I'm sure APS will send that via robocall and email. And you'll have from February 17th to March 8th to change your intent to return, whether it's in person or virtual. And so just some important data that I've given this to the staff, and this changes every day. And so right now we have 349 students who will be in person. And so 137 6th graders, 92 7th graders, 120 8th graders. We anticipate that those numbers will be a little bit smaller, because while a lot of our parents, most of our parents have been really good at, communicating, I'm sure that we have a few that maybe we've missed, or they haven't communicated that, or they're just really even looking at it today or this weekend as far as, whether they want their child to come back into school. And we have the telework status. I gave out this information last time as far as our teachers who are on telework. And the other item I wanted to just to kind of pause and talk about is a temporary telework status. Like right now we have 3. And so there's all different reasons why a staff member could be teleworking, including they had a positive case, or their child or a family member, they had a positive COVID test. And so then they would have to quarantine. And, we anticipate that that's going to happen. I speak very often to the Grady Cluster principals, including the elementary principals, and I know they've had to work through some of those issues. And so we are ready for that. We're prepared for that. We have a couple of permanent subs and hopefully a couple more coming. And we know that the leadership team, including me, that we might be working in and out of rooms and supporting our teachers. I talked about this the last time, but just to talk about it again, I think that, saying it more than once is good, especially as we are not only starting in person for the first time this year, and really first time in almost a year, but this is a new building for us, obviously. And we are starting, I know the one question that we've had, and we'll put this out again in our orientation video, and that is doors will open at 8:40 a.m. And that's the same time they open up at Inman. And so 8:40 is when your child will come into the building, whether in the front or the back of the building, depending on if they're riding the bus or they're walkers, bus or car riders. And so we'll talk more about that here in the next couple slides. So David T. Howard right here, David T. Howard Middle School, John Wesley Dobbs. Remember that we will have some different ways to get to school. But if you're riding a bike or walking, we do have the belt line. And so we want you to turn onto Magruder. And Magruder will be, that will be a place where actually I will be located. Definitely the first couple of weeks to try to slow cars down. I'll have a sign just to make sure that the traffic knows that school has always been in session this year, but it'll actually be back in the building starting February 16th. So just a reminder there. But we'll have a crossing guard, and we want to have kids cross here at Magruder. So much better. We would not want them to cross at John Wesley Dobbs and Randolph because of that hill. And so whether they're on the belt line or they're walking or they're going to Irwin, this is where we would want them to cross. And you also have the Freedom Parkway Trail that can come out right by John Wesley Dobbs and Howe. And that's another place that if your child is walking or riding a bike. Now, if you are a car rider, or your child's a car rider and you're driving your child to school, then you want to make sure that you are going from west to east on John Wesley Dobbs. You will not be able to turn left, and I know that's going to be really annoying on that first day if you turn on John Wesley Dobbs, whether you're turning left or right, and you're going from east to west, that you will not be able to turn in there. And Officer Reed will tell you to keep going, and you're going to have to turn around and go the other way, which is, not unlike at Inman when you're going down Virginia, that you couldn't turn left. And Officer Littles was always there telling you, nope, you can't turn left between certain times of the day, in the morning and in the afternoon. And so we talked about this last time, is Boulevard and John Wesley Dobbs, there's not a left turn lane. And that gets to be, there's going to be a lot of traffic there. So if you're coming from the north, my suggestion would be to get onto Jackson and then turn east to John Wesley Dobbs. And then there's a light right here. You wouldn't have to turn left, and then you would just continue straight and then go into the area where there's a drop off there at the parking lot, the front parking lot. Howell Street, we want you to make sure that you're not moving along there because the buses are there. And so the buses are going to be coming out of Howell, and that will be a place which will be definitely congested. And we definitely don't want you to use Howell between Irwin and John Wesley Dobbs. And we're going to have signs along the way, and we have a couple of our parents working on that. We're actually going to have alumni, our Howard alumni, and I always just say how fortunate we are, because usually you would think of an alumni association would be something that would be supporting like Grady High School or next year Midtown High School or Mays. It has to do with high schools, but we're a middle school that used to be a high school. So we have a lot of alumni, and they want to help, and they know they can't go inside the building. So you will see them the first few days actually being around the building and around the bike and footpaths that I talked to you about, whether that is on the Beltline or on the Freedom Parkway Trail. And so they will be around, but we will have those signs. And so your child, if they're walking or riding a bike, they want to look for those signs because we'll have those along, for instance, the Beltline to get to Magruder. So look for a sign like this. And we will also have this sign around the building. And that's one of the signs I'll be holding up, that students are on campus, drive carefully, Rams Crossing. They're going to be crossing in different places as they get to the David T. Howard. So you'll see that sign around our campus. So here's another look at David T. Howard. You see that Magruder's right here. Again, that's where we're going to cross. Eventually, there's going to be a yellow blinking school crossing sign here. This is the bus lane. And one of the reasons why I'm going to be right here is not only to slow down cars, but just to remind our car riders that you can't go through here. And so I think we might have a couple that just forget about it and they're going to go in with the buses, but only buses on this lane. And if you're coming from the east, so I'm sure some of our Mary Lynn parents, former parents, that you could go actually to Irwin. And again, we would not want you to go to Howell because you're going to hit buses right here. And so if you would want to go on Irwin to get there, then you would want to go to Irwin to Boulevard and then back around to John Wesley Dobbs. And let's see other things that I'm missing. Miss Beatles, I'm just going to pause right here. I mean, I try to be as thorough as possible, but I know I might have forgotten something. So is there anything that I have forgotten, Miss Beatles?
No, I think you've summed it up. Just make sure if you are a car rider, walker, or bike rider from the Freedom Parkway, that you come in the front of the building. And if you're coming from Krog Street, Magruder, or the east side, then you'll come in from the back of the building, buses as well. Come in the back of the building. All temperatures will be checked before students enter the building, and that's a safety precaution to make sure that we're all safe in the building. And I think that's about it, Doc.
Okay. And so we have some questions also. I'm going to work through this. Ms. Poe, did you see those questions? I don't know if it was sent to you or not, because you can maybe help me get through them. I don't know if you saw them or not.
I have not seen them, but I will go find them.
Okay, well, just find it in your email just to see, and I'll keep going.
Okay. And the chat is now working. The chat was off for a second. I don't know what was going on, but the chat is now working for questions. People were asking.
And then I know Miss Poe is going to tell you, and she might tell you here at the end, is the laptop needs to be fully charged and headphones. Bring your lunch. But if you don't have a lunch, then we have a school lunch for sure. That is a hot lunch that will be better than the lunch in the TIP program. Our TIP program, our lunches were not as good. But I've talked to the elementary principals, and they said that lunch has definitely gotten increasingly better. And so we are glad. We're glad that that's happening. Doors, like I said, are open up at 8:40 a.m. And Tuesday, we just talked about a late start. And I'm sure we have most of the parents that are on here or that listen to this are our parents who are in-person learning. But we are going to be taking temperatures with about 400 staff and students. And so we're going to get quicker with that. And we have about 6 tables. And Ms. Beatles has really worked hard on making that as efficient as possible. But we know that the kids are not going to know where to go that first day. And that's the other question I've had, but we're going to have staff all over the building. And so they're going to know their room number, and then they're going to be escorted, not by one person, but basically pointed in the right direction on which stairwell. And once they get it a day or two, then they're going to know exactly where to go. But they're always going to see an adult. When they walk up the stairs, when they turn down the hallway, they will see an adult. wherever they go, and the adult will know where they're headed. They just need to remember that room number. So if their room number is 2204, they just have to remember that in their head. And, you know, an adult might say, give me your room number, and then you'll be pointed in the right direction. All of our staff that are not only in the hallways, but they're going to be outside the door too. So our staff will be there, and you're going to see some familiar faces that you've seen virtually throughout the year, and you'll finally get to see them in person, but they'll just have a mask on. But
Hey,
Tuesday,
Dr. Mac.
yeah, go ahead, Ms. Poe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to start giving some of the questions. I'm sorry. I thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to go over and just say that the late start on Tuesday will be for virtual and in person also, because, you know, we might not get started right at 9:05 or 9:10, and just give us some grace the first couple of days, that Tuesday, then that Thursday. We will have that one transition to connections class. It'll look more like pod learning, because we did not want students to change teachers, and that would have been a scheduling nightmare right there when we have about 50 days left of school. But we're just trying to go in slowly and work with the new building and work with our staff and students in this pandemic. Breakfast and lunch will be in the classroom. Again, students can bring their lunch, and the dismissal will be at 4:05 p.m. And so that's kind of it for the PowerPoint. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but then look at some of these questions. Did you find those questions, Ms. Poe?
Yes, sir. I sure did.
Okay.
And I'm ready when you are.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the first questions is about how do we check our child out of school for an appointment? If we already know in advance, can we send a note, email? Definitely. If you know your child is going to leave early, please send a email to Ms. Granderson. That's S. Granderson at apsk12.org, and we'll make sure it's all over the website. Send an email to Ms. Granderson, and also their pod teacher, Ms. Beatles.
Yes, but we'll send it through my homework. Please don't send any paper to give to Ms. Granderson.
Yeah.
We cannot accept any paper or any type of things where we exchange. So please just email Ms. Granderson, and you can CC your child's pod teacher.
And so you won't be allowed to come in the building to pick up your child, of course, but you'll ring the doorbell and we'll take care of it from there.
And hold on, Ms. Poe, too. Ms. Beatles, we probably want them to bring their driver's license too, just in case, right? I mean, make sure they have their driver's license. So again, if we're going to hand off your child, and we'll have some type of electronic signature, I think, right, Ms.
Yes,
Beatles?
but we're gonna verify who you are before you pick your child up.
Right.
When you come to the door with your to ring the bell, you won't be allowed in, but we will come out and check to make sure you are who you say you are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next question, Dr. Maxwell, is, will the Library Media Center be open to browse and/or check out books? I'm concerned about kids getting antsy and bored sitting in the same place all day, especially with the downtime on Zoom and the many brain breaks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. And so our library will be open, and but exactly how are they going to browse books? What were they going to do with their brain breaks? Again, we're starting out slowly with this. You know, the brain breaks will happen inside the classroom. We will also, I know the connections teachers, depending on the weather, and I know the PE teachers have talked about those kids that are in PE bringing jackets, you know, where they can maybe do some work with virtual and face-to-face. And so we are just starting out slowly with that. I mean, I think that question will be more easily answered after the first week, to kind of work on when we're going to go to the library. You know, when are they going to look at books? And so we're going to start at that first week or two where the brain breaks are going to be in the classroom, and get some of the protocols and processes in place. I mean, so I'm kind of looking at them too, because the next question kind of talks about, it's kind of the same thing about with a doctor's appointment, right?
Right. So we've already addressed that one. I think the next one is number 5.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I think I get that question about just why are teachers not teaching their full class period. So, you know, we have teachers that are on telework, like I said, about 20% of our kids or 20% of our teachers are teleworking. We have about 33% of our kids who are in person. And what we don't want to do is we don't want them to teach a regular day from 8:05 to 4:05, because one of the things, and it's a slippery slope or a balancing act on how much computer time. I know, like when we were doing it virtually, we moved I think the core classes just a few, like 5 or 10 minutes. And there was concern with parents. And what we don't want to do, because 66% or 70% of the kids are virtual, is to extend the day even more. So we're going to keep with those office hours at the end of the day. We're going to keep with those same amount of minutes. And, you know, we are just going to, you know, dip our toe in the water with this in-person learning, making sure that we're safe, make sure that the kids understand about wearing masks, and that we distance ourselves 6 feet, that they learn the building. And what we're going to do is just start out like that. And then as we feel more confident, you know, be in a place, hopefully, where we are, you know, being a little bit more loose and maybe having another transition or two. But, you know, that this third quarter is where we have about 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks is where we're going to really learn our building and learn how we're going to, you know, maneuver ourselves in the pandemic.
And I think it's important, I'm not sure if you've already said this, but also for our parents to remember that the schedules are the exact same whether your child is in person or at home. And so that's where some of that extra cushion comes from, is because we have to give our students at home more time to, like, maybe go from, you know, to the next class, or give our kids in the building time to transition to connections. So we try to mirror that schedule. Dr. Maxwell, I think that goes with 5 and 6 are both together.
Yeah, I kind of talked about asynchronous Wednesdays, that, you know, a little bit that, you know, the asynchronous periods were throughout the week, and now they're all in one day. And so I think that parents really like the idea of, you know, having a little downtime for one class a week. But now it's like a whole day where there's not as much work happening. And so that's something that we want to talk to our leadership team about and see, you know, what if we need to change any of that and what we need to change. So that's definitely something that we are talking about as a leadership team.
Okay. The next one, I guess I will take, because it's about tech. It's the one tech question I hate. Will adults in the classroom be monitoring student screens to make sure they're not playing Minecraft or watching YouTube videos during class? Now, our teachers will be monitoring our students. They're going to be actively watching our students. But remember, our teachers will be at their own desk behind the plexiglass teaching their class. So they're going to have their headphones on. They're going to be teaching their class. They're going to be monitoring the kids, you know, as best as they can. One thing is, when they're in the building, they're going to be on our Wi-Fi. So our Wi-Fi filters are a little different from some of the filters that they had at home. So certain things will be blocked out. The other thing is, luckily, we are getting a soon when the students will have a new software on their devices that will actually, the teachers will be able to monitor better on their screen, and that's coming really soon. And I know a lot of families will really enjoy that. But our teachers will be monitoring, but we can't promise they're not going to be over your student all day, because they have the distance and they're teaching classes.
Thank you, Ms. Poe. And so I'm going to take the next 2 questions about students having breaks. We're going to have the brain breaks. And I think I said that they're going to start out, or they're just going to be in the class. I mean, if you know the last 4 years, or if you're a parent that, you know, your children are in 7th, 8th grade, I mean, you know that I'm a big believer in recess. We're one of the few middle schools that have recess. So I know you're talking about outdoor time, but you know, that's something that I think the PE teachers are looking at. And again, eventually we would like to do that. I mean, I think outdoor time is necessary. But that the first few days, we know that there are going to be kids where all the 6th grade kids are in the one pod, and so it's like 9 kids, and there's another teacher that has 4 kids. We got to balance that. We got to have an orientation for our kids on, you know, how do they go to the restroom, and we're going to show you that orientation, but that's going to take a little bit of time. But again, we're hoping for some of that as we move forward, as we look through the pandemic, I mean, even looking at vaccinations. I know that Dr. Herring's working with the Fulton County Health Department. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at, that we feel like safe enough to do it, that we can handle it, that our staff can handle it. But definitely that is on our mind also. The next question, how are you handling IEP students? And Ms. Hall Washington will be here. She's been here actually the whole time, even over the summer. And so she will make sure that those students have their accommodations. And so now I'm kind of reading the next question too. So I don't know, Ms. Poe, kind of where we are, but maybe we're both looking at this next.
I think it's the one that I laughed. We currently, if your children don't like their coworkers, i.e. their siblings or parents, you can't change now. We can't change your status to come into the building until that window starts February 16th, Dr. Maxwell, to March 8th.
February 17th, yeah.
And that's for 4th quarter. Right now, whatever your choice was for 3rd quarter is solidified because of our numbers and everything. Yes, for the next question, our students will be in kind of a pod setting where they will go in their classroom with about, I don't know about how many, about 7 to 10 other students. They'll be sitting spaced out. They'll have their laptops charged with headphones in, and their teacher will be up front behind plexiglass with a mask and everything with her computer and her microphone. And so the teacher could be teaching her red algebra class, but the student could be in their red ELA class. So if that makes sense. So the teacher is really just actively monitoring, but your student's original teacher is teaching them via Zoom as they did when the student was home. I think I explained that.
Yeah, no, that's good. And just to give you the exact date, March 22nd is the start of the 4th quarter. And so if you decided that you wanted your child to go to in-person that 4th quarter, that's when that would start. And I mean, I think that basically answered the question about the homeroom and I think we answered that students going to PE or any other connections classes in person. And I think it just depends on the teacher and the subject as far as how that goes. And I feel like what in-person looks like that first day is going to look a little bit different differently in the 3rd week and 4th week, and then definitely in that 4th quarter, it could look differently.
Yes, and as just a last technology plug, please have your student bring their device charged. There are a few people who have said that there's an issue with their device. We'll try to handle that on site, but please be patient. We have very few devices on site. Your child can bring their personal device, like say they've been using their Mac at home or they've been using their own Chromebook that they really like. They can bring that in. Once the teachers will have instructions on how to put your child on our APS Wi-Fi when they get to school that day. So they can bring I would suggest that your students bring the machine they've been using. So if there's a machine they're comfortable with, they've been using, I would suggest that they keep using that same device. Have grace, as Dr. Maxwell said, just give it a little grace, have patience. I think that's it for me in technology.
Yeah, and and to be transparent, Ms. Poe's probably thinking this, but I'm going to say it. Okay. Is that when the elementary started K-5, then we started having bandwidth issues in Atlanta Public Schools, and our devices started running slowly. And on Tuesday, we're going to have a few thousand more middle school and high school students. And we have a new building, and they said that we have enough bandwidth, but we will see. And again, to go back to what Ms. Post said about the grace, is that we're really going to be looking at that. And I have a feeling that they're going to be buying some more bandwidth for the district and for maybe even our school, who knows? But we will see. So hopefully we don't have any technical or technology issues, but we very well may and that will affect those students who are virtual, because many of our teachers are teaching in person. And so we already had a situation earlier this week where some of the teachers couldn't teach from their classroom. So hopefully, cross our fingers. We'll make sure that hopefully it works, everything works. But if it doesn't, then we will try to pivot as quickly as possible. Any other questions in the chat?
Okay, yeah, let me go. Ms. Beatles nodded.
Yeah, because I'm trying to answer them as they come up. One parent said she's not hearing nearly enough about safety. Will children sanitize their hands before they enter the room and multiple times throughout the day and between each day, not only Wednesdays? Okay, so a couple of things. Kids are assigned to a specific desk every day. We are cleansing all day long. The custodians do high touch areas all day long. Kids, as they come into the room, will have to use the hand sanitizer to clean their hands coming into every room every day. And on Wednesdays, we do a full cleansing where they do the foggers in all of the rooms. That's on Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's the reason for the asynchronous Wednesdays. There was also a question about can kids—
Hold on, Ms. Beatles. I just want to say, because you said it perfectly, but there's hand sanitizer in every room and every office. And so that's definitely going to be a thing that is going to be a protocol for kids. And we have put down the 6-foot stickers all over the building. We are actually, Ms. Beatles, because I think it's a great question and we haven't touched on it, but we can talk more and more about this, is that we, Ms. Beatles, had tours for all of the staff on, there will be stairwells that you'll just only go down. There will be stairwells you only go up. There's 3 bathrooms on every floor. And Ms. Beatles has made it so that basically, say you have about 15 teachers or at every floor, 5 teachers will have those kids can only go to one bathroom, 5 teachers to another bathroom, 5 teachers to another. We have My Homework, which we haven't used that much, but we can use it for passes. And so we're going to know what kids are out. And so the teacher has to look to see if kids are out in the bathroom. And if it's not their bathroom, then it's fine. But if they have so many in their assigned bathroom, then they can't send that kid until maybe a kid comes back. We have arrows where you actually only go one way. And so it'll be annoying at times for teachers and kids, but you're going to have to go counterclockwise throughout the building. And you'll see that a lot in the orientation. And that's why we want to give you that orientation video to talk about what we're doing as safety precautions and what we're telling the kids on their first day. But that's a great question.
There's a question about, will the teachers in the room with the kids be at least one of the child's core teachers? And what I will say is that is not guaranteed because we're trying to even out the kids. So it may be that one teacher has 10 kids from their homeroom and another teacher only has 5. Well, I have to even them out across all classes. So the kids may not necessarily be in their core teachers, but I did try to do the best I can in making sure that kids were, but I can't guarantee that.
And so, I think there's a question about, it's kind of Zoom from school. And, we have not, that's what we've been saying all along as we were beginning this. Our non-negotiable is to not switch teachers. But if your child And sixth grade, like for sure, there's 6 teachers on telework that it would have been difficult. We would have probably, if we went right to face-to-face learning, we would have probably had to take a 7th or 8th grade teacher and move them into 6th grade with, basically a third of the year left. Or we would have definitely been in 6th grade, especially moving your child if they went in person, and they would have had a different teacher. Actually, there's one subject in 6th grade. I don't know how we would have done it because 3 out of the 4 teachers in one subject are teleworking. So we would have had to move a 7th and 8th grader teacher up. And really, the research says what you don't want to do in the middle of the year is to change teachers because those kids, those teachers know the kids, and it would be like having a sub for the last third of the school year. So that's definitely why we've started down this road. And so we have not promised that, but what we promise is to work slowly and to see as we get into 4th quarter, if we can get to more transitions and we can have more of a more face-to-face learning, but a non-negotiable would be not to change teachers at this late a date.
There is a question about having 7 to 10 kids in the room and they all have on their headphones. One of the parents is concerned that, does it get too noisy? And actually we did TIP right before Christmas break, which was an intervention program for some of the kids who really needed some extra support. And they were all in the room with their headphones on and nobody was really distracted because honestly, our kids don't talk quite as much in class as we would like anyway. And so since they have their headphones on, they're listening to their peers, they're doing, listening to their teachers, and then they talk. It really wasn't an issue. No one said that they were distracted. And remember, they're not sitting close to each other. Our rooms aren't huge, but they're pretty nice size where the kids are spread out so much that they're able to listen and hear their lesson as well as speak. So there's no issue with that, but that is why the headphones are really important.
Yeah. Ms. Beatles, any other questions or Ms. Poe? Okay. All right, so through robocall and or Remind 101 on Sunday or Monday, probably more like Monday, where we will give you that orientation. We'll go basically from the beginning of the day, throughout the day, and the end of the day. Students can watch it. They're going to watch it again on Tuesday, but it's good to watch it a couple times. Watch it with your child on Monday, and we'll go through orientation throughout the day to make sure that they know all the safety protocols and they know exactly what to do. And we're just excited to to bring students in and to get this new building, being used in a way that we wanted to for over a year. So yeah.
Dr. Maxwell, there was a question about, should we assume bike riders should bring locks for bikes? Yes, we do have our bike racks up. If your child is traveling along the belt line, they will come in to the side from Magruder, and there are several bike racks in the back of the building. If they're coming from the Freedom Parkway Trail, they will come in the front, and there are several bike racks in the front of the building. Yes, please bring locks.
Yeah, definitely.
And there was a question, I'm glad you brought that up, Ms. Beatles, about having their backpacks with them. They will have their backpacks with them in the classrooms, correct? Because there are no lockers.
Correct. There are no lockers. We cannot give out lockers because of all of the COVID restrictions. So the kids will walk around with their backpacks, but they only have to go to that pod and they leave the backpack in the pod while they're there all day, unless they have band. And then of course they do need to bring in their band instruments because they cannot share band instruments and the district cannot hand them band instruments. So they will need to bring that with them. And the PE teachers ask that they bring a light coat, light jacket, so that they can go outside and do some activities outside. They can't still share, so they can't play ball where they throw it around to each other, but it'll give them some space and time to be outside instead of in the building all day.
The other question I did not answer, I didn't see this question, but we will be giving out more information, and I think you received it already through APS, but it's surveillance testing for both staff and students that will help and hopefully just help keep everyone safe as we're looking for, looking at the cases of COVID that are positive. And so that will definitely be beneficial. And we will send out some more information also on Monday about surveillance testing.
Several questions are asking about when will they know, parents know about the pod classrooms. The students will be given the pod classrooms when they enter the building. That is constantly changing daily. So they will find out when they walk in the building on Tuesday morning.
And we promise that we will make sure that every student gets to the place they're supposed to be. I promise that they will know where to go.
There's a question about what are the procedures for students who go back and then decide to return virtual. If students come in and they decide they want to go virtual, we just ask that the parents let us know. But one thing we have to really reiterate is if you change to virtual, you can't come back to face-to-face until the fourth quarter when you fill out the next survey. So you can change from face-to-face to virtual, but you can't change from virtual back to face-to-face. And yes, if distractions are too high, students can return virtual immediately.
Yeah. And all we ask, Ms. Beatles, I think is because we're doing that, is just to email Ms. Beatles and me. And we will get that to the counselors and make sure that that's corrected, because actually in Infinite Campus, there's a little tab that basically says whether you're in person or virtual, and we just need to be able to switch that.
But it is important, if you have decided to do face-to-face, that your child comes in face-to-face. There are 2 separate attendances for face-to-face and virtual. So we want to make sure that if you change your mind, that your child is counted present accordingly. No, the pod will not change each day. The pod will stay the same. Currently, the pods are changing because of parents letting us know whether they're coming or not coming. And so to even out the pods so we don't have too many students in one room, they're changing currently now, not every day. There was a question about any idea what will happen if they go back March 22nd instead. Does it change the pod setups? Will instructions be different at that time? We hope so. Yeah. We're hoping that at least teachers can get vaccines at that point. We're hoping for it to be a little safer and that we've kind of worked through the kinks of having kids in one room transitioning one time. We are definitely hoping that on March 22nd, that it kind of comes back to somewhat normal, but we won't know.
And yeah, I mean, I can't say that any better, Ms. Beatles. I mean, the only thing that I would say is that once we do know, like if we feel like, oh yeah, we have a majority of our teachers vaccinated, or, it's safer, then we're going to get on Lunch and Learn and say that. And if we can do that before March the 8th, because I know that that's the last day for the intent to return form to be filled out, then that's definitely what we're going to do. And so I'm a relentless optimist, and I will continue to be. So that's what we're hoping.
So there's a question about picking students up from school. Yes, we will release them in the front of the building. We will kind of start at 4 o'clock because we're going to steadily release kids. There will not be a one release and everybody flows out. So we'll actually start at 4 o'clock. Parents, I cannot stress this. I know at Inman we used to have a long line of parents that pick up kids. It is very difficult to turn onto Boulevard. To turn onto Dobbs from Boulevard. We ask that you turn down Jackson and come across Boulevard on Dobbs, and it will probably be a long line. So please be patient with us.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in orientation. And I just think, just like at Inman, the parents found places to go to park, and then their child would go to that place, whether it's Green Cove or a couple of, I was thinking some of those Ponce roads, a couple of those roads over. And I think that's what you're going to have to do. Like some people will go by Irwin, by Krog, and you're basically going to go, you're going to talk to your child and say, listen, this is where I'm going to be every day. You need to cross Irwin, cross Randolph with a crossing guard, and then this is where I'll be. And so we understand that. And so that's what we're kind of going to work through. That's probably, if you look at from 840 to 405, other than trying to keep everybody safe, I think the other issue is that pickup. What are you going to do with pickup? Drop off, I think it'll be once you get it ready, and we'll drop your kids off, but just picking them up because you want to park 10 minutes, 15 minutes before school ends. And that's going to be a little bit difficult. And so we'll work with you on maybe even different roads that have on-street parking as opposed to not, and just work through that.
And there was also a question about carpool numbers and things like that. And, in high school, sorry. In middle school, we really don't do carpool numbers or any of those things like they do in elementary school. So your student will just know to meet you and like Dr. Maxwell and come to get you. But no, there's no carpool numbers or anything like that for our.
When the kids are released, there are squares in front of the building. So they have to stand in a square, one kid to a square. Only if they're siblings can they stand multiple in that square. Because I see it's a question about declaring how your child coming and going from school. Let us know, or let your child know in the beginning. If there is a bus change, you must contact transportation. We cannot make those changes here at the building. That is done from a transportation standpoint. So if you change your child's bus, you need to call transportation. I think that's all the questions we have in the chat.
It is.
Yeah, those are great questions. And I feel like, we'll be able to answer those again with more people, because I know everybody hasn't been able to come on here. I mean, they can watch the video again, but we will send out an orientation to answer a lot of those questions. So we will be ready for Tuesday. Have a great rest of your weekend, long weekend, and we'll see your student either in person or virtual on Tuesday. Thank you.
Have a great day.